Hello, friends. Welcome back to Value Vintage Cards. So I wasn't really planning on a video release for today, but yeah, texting back and forth yesterday and watching a couple of videos as I was driving around. One of the topics that came up, and John released a video last night on it over at the Mangini collection, and was talking about the premium paid for tens. And we kind of saw some of the same research and videos that were out there. Always good information when folks are gathering videos and putting together some information and doing a little like editorial research, news reporting kind of status. It's always helpful. Just helps the community stay updated and pulls information from different sources. So saves us some time and gives us some education. That said, um, I think we both fall very much in the same line. In fact, I've often used the jewelry analogy because we kind of did the same thing that John was describing. When I took my wife in when we were looking at engagement rings back in you know, phew, '01, I guess 2000, 2001 era. You kind of go into the jewelry store and at some point they say, this is one with inclusion, and you look at it and you're like, oof, geez. It's like there's chunks of black strings in that thing. Like that looks a little bit tough to the eye for what we're looking at. And they're like, yeah, it's the affordable option, and it's not perfect, and that's just even just look at it, you can tell there's imperfections to it. Like, all right, well, it's nice to get a bigger ring, but what can we do if we exchange out of that? We can do a little bit smaller ring for the same price, and this one doesn't have visible flaws at the um, bare naked eye inspection. Okay, well that's looks great to me. And what's better than that? Well, then you go into this one where even under a loop, there's I think it's basically very few issues, and then there's like perfect, which is off the charts. But you can get into the very few issues. And when you look at them, you're like, well, so it's a smaller diamond. What's the difference? They said, well, if you use a loop, you're not going to see the issues. I'm like, neat. Okay. If any of my friends come over with a loop to look at my, fiance's ring, I'm going to be a little offended anyway. So not really the issue we're looking at there. So most of the things you kind of fall in that sweet spot. And even some of with the inclusions or whatever they call those, the flaws to the naked eye. As soon as you look at it, and you're like, that's pretty minor. I'm okay with that. Um, the cut of it, the shape of it, the size of it, the what presentation of it is all fantastic. Maybe we're okay with that one even. I don't know. To each their own, but you kind of make your decision where you're going to fall. So it's funny he used that analogy because that's one that I've always used with grading. Is you get to a certain point and you're like, can you really tell the difference between a 6.5 and a 7, or a 7 and an 8? And I'll see folks that say that, like, oh, I have a 5.5. I'm really hoping to upgrade to a 6. And, instead of, it's so numeric based. Like, what makes you say that? I've got a few cards that I'll look at and like, oh, that's the surface on this thing is just driving me insane. Love the card. My 53 Bowman Musial, perfect example. I had it in like a, I don't know, 1.5 or a 2 or something. Um, fine, fine for that grade. But because that card is so beautiful, and because the image of it is just what draws you to that card, and because that particular image was just a little rough, I said, I need a better look. I don't know what that means. It could just be a better 2, could be a 3, could be ungraded, could be a 5. I know I don't want an 8 or a 9 because good lord, that's going to get expensive. Um, do we want it to be in that kind of condition? Yeah, sure. But am I willing to invest the capital to make my 53 Bowman Musial into a multi-thousand-dollar card? Nah, I'm good. So I ended up landing at a 5, and it's a little uh, you know sharper, crisper. Colors are vibrant. Like it does everything I want it to do. So I should have pulled that because I just talked about it for like a minute and a half, but I didn't. What I did pull was a few that I just wanted to kind of run through and show you a little bit of where I fall and what I think is interesting. So when we were looking at these videos and um, just pulling some information, I dove in on one that in particular I thought like that's a buck box. I'm pretty sure I have it in my boxes for 50 cents. Not in a 10, probably not in a 9, but it's literally a card. Like if I see it for 50 cents, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Let's grab that one. But the 1981 Topps Reggie Jackson. It even leaves the world of what we, strictly define as vintage, which that's still in my childhood wheelhouse. Like I would still see an 81 Topps Reggie Jackson and be like, yeah, let's do that one. That's cool. But that said, that and a PSA 10, there's 19 of them graded a 10, and it just sold for like $4,500. In a 9, there's 219 of those, and those go for like $100. That fine difference between like a 9 and a 10, someone's opinion, jumps it from $100, which still feels insane to me, to $4,500. And then the last 8 sold for, it was like $9. Um, so we really are playing, lotto ticket when we send those in, because there's times people will send them in and say like it's going to get a 10 and it comes back an 8, and literally you go from, I mean, thousands of dollars worth of return to upside down. You lost money on grading. Like now your card is worth -$6. That is wow. I don't know how to process that. And maybe it is like anything else, the law of large numbers. I mean, send 100 of them in if you think they're all tens, and if one comes back, you win. So then you unload your 99 eights and your 110, and you're up several $1,000s. Maybe that's the play. I don't know. Maybe I should do that. Hmm. What am I doing today? Maybe I'll do that. But I don't think I will do that. I don't think I want to spend thousands of dollars on grading in hopes that there's no grade control, in hopes that I get the right person on the right day and they slap a 10 on a dollar card and call it worth thousands. So, what I did want to share today, though, because I think it's important to get some perspective on grades and values and some of those things. First one I'm going to share is a 1955 All American Sports Club. I'm sharing this because I know there's a lot of these out there ungraded, and I didn't pull SGC for this, which I should have, but again, I wasn't even planning to do a video. But that is one that I thought was interesting enough. I like Yogi. I collect Yogi. There's only been 16 graded. Highest one is a 9, and there's only one graded a 9. And if you take a look at this, I have the 9. There it goes. Family adjusted. It's hand cut. What? How ridiculous. I don't care about the grades. Um, Honestly, if I could have found that in a 5 and saved, 50% of what I paid for it, I would have. I really jumped at that, not because it was the 9, but because it's 16 of them graded. I know SGC has seen some, but when you look at that set's pretty tough. There's not a lot of them out there. So I said, you know what, let's go ahead and jump. Let's do it. All right. Next one I'm going to show you is another interesting one. And I don't know how to value this thing. This is a really interesting case. Um, it's an E91. E91s have A's and B's to them. So this is a set A, which I believe is the more scarce of the two. PSA has seen 23 of these. So there are 4 4s and 1 5. A 3 sold in 2001. So I mean, or 2021. Um, so you're talking, COVID spike and whatever else, but sold for a lot. I forget how much. I mean, it was like off the charts, ridiculously expensive. So I don't know how to value this. I didn't check 130 point. I don't have any other kind of valuing software. I'm curious what that would come in at. But again, top 23, there's four fours, there's one five. I'm holding a four. Christy Mathewson. Um, I have had this since, you can tell by the cert number, it's like one something. Um, I've had this since, I think this was in like the little peak around the time my oldest daughter was born. So call it '08, '09, somewhere in that ballpark. I probably bought that. And it was like hundreds of dollars. And I like Mathewson. So I was collecting Mathewsons. But really, really clean card. Um, to me, there's 23 of those graded by PSA, period. There's 19 PSA 10 1981 Reggie Jacksons. If I'm going to look at where to put my money in scarcity, I can either say there's 1910s or there's a card from before 1910, 1908, that there's literally 23 of them graded, period. End of story. To me, that's where my attention focuses because somebody with the 219 nines might be cracking and resubmitting and saying, like, I think 10 of those are misgraded. Well, now your 10 population just doubled. Whoops. With those, I don't know, unless there's a Black Swamp E91 find, I don't think we're going to see the population double. So, just a thought. Um, Next one is one of the more common ones out there. And I was looking at cards I have that would be in the ballpark of what a PSA 10 Reggie Jackson would go for, value wise. So this one, there's a lot. There's 251 of them, and there are some eights and nines, I think, even. So you can definitely find one higher end. This would be a little bit cheaper than a 1981 Topps PSA 10 Reggie Jackson. But to me, that's one of the bigger cards in my entire collection. It's in a two. So for the grade folks, two is where I landed on that thing. Where I really landed was I really, really wanted the card, and I happened to be able to trade for one that happened to have a numeric grade to it, and it was a two, which is fine. You're talking about Cap Anson. It's an only Cap Anson card. It's from 1887, not 1981. So a little bit older. But to me, that presents very nicely. Image is fantastic. Everything about it. Having a Cap Anson card, absolutely on my list of, you know, not favorite people, but maybe most interesting ones to try and collect because you don't get a whole lot of Cap Anson options. Not a good dude, but a very cool card. And again, when you're telling the story of baseball, you can't overlook some of the bad folks along the way. Um, if we're going to tell the full story, and he's a Hall of Famer, so kind of have to go through and acknowledge and recognize the good and understand the story. And the last one that I'm going to share, because it is a little bit higher grade, so there's 1910s of Reggie. This one, there's a total population period between PSA and SGC. Again, graded BVGs, whatever else, don't know. It's a 1937 O-Pee-Chee, Lefty Grove. PSA has seen 11 that are six or higher. SGC has only seen six that they called six or higher. This is one of the cleaner ones. I love collecting Lefty Grove stuff. I do believe he is the greatest left-handed pitcher of all time. That thing in a six. So there's 17 six or higher. I know it's not the highest graded, but there are less of these six or higher than there is PSA 10s of Reggie. And this is I mean, what I spent, at least less than a quarter of a Reggie. So can't quite get, I mean, gosh, I can get 10 or 11 bears for the price of one Reggie. I can get this in Barra and lay a house payment for the same price as a Reggie. A lot of times when I talk about things, it's not so much like what's the value of it, it's what's the opportunity cost. If we had infinity dollars, sure, we'd go out and buy, 19 of everything. I'd have every PSA 10 Reggie, but I would feel silly if I had infinity dollars. But you only have so many dollars to go around. For me, I want stuff like this. I love that. And these, if you're not familiar with that set, one of the best things about this set is it's not just the standard little pop out, but you get a write up on the back since it's so peachy. You get the dual language, you get the English and the French, which is super cool as well. Um, but for me, that I guess we could say Pop 17. This thing, about the same dollars if you wanted to get something. Actually, I might be able to get that and the bear. I'm not sure. It's a Pop 1, and it's still less than a tenth of a Reggie. This thing, I don't know. I mean, I guess is that Pop 5 in that shape, but it's only a Pop 23 uh, card period according to PSA. So um, longer than I planned to rant, but I wanted to do a little bit of share and a little bit of perspective, and lend some thoughts. And John's video, he did mention, and he said, maybe this is to the point. Maybe we should all be sending in for grading because if you hit that 110, you can send in 300 cards, get one of them a 10. All the rest got graded for free, and you just unload that 10. I don't know. But I also don't know if the grading companies are doing control and they're going to give a whole lot of nines, maybe some eights. And how much are we not seeing? So we're not busting out our loop and we're just looking at it saying, I appreciate that card. And I think that's the moment we need to stop and say, I appreciate that card and not worry about the grade slapped on it. But to each their own. Just my perspective and some thoughts. And yeah, definitely appreciate everyone sharing in the comments. I would encourage folks to continue to share their thoughts and perspective because I think that's one of the fun things of doing this and being kind of community engaged is just share your perspectives, let your um, you know thoughts be known, and let the discussion continue. So, what's your thoughts? You sending them in, trying to get tens? If you're happy with eights, do you prefer cards like I do, where the entire population is 20, 30, 50, something like that? Those are the ones that grab my attention and keep me engaged. So I will catch up with y'all on the next video. Take care.